Hey Internet, welcome to Why Am I Watching This? My name is Kyle Mustang, and this week's movie is The Greatest, starring Pierce Brosnan, Susan Sarandon, Carey Mulligan, and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Now, technically this is not a Lifetime original movie. It's an independent film that Pierce Brosnan produced and shopped around at film festivals. But it does appear on the Lifetime website, which means that they must have spent some money on it to get the television and web rights. Therefore, it fits the criteria of my little review show. The movie begins with two young lovers stopped in the middle of a country road. The male has abruptly stopped his car to tell the female that he loves her.
All right, I have a secret to tell you.
You're in the middle of the road.
I know. Do you want to hear it?
Do you want to move your car first?
What he doesn't realize is his romantic gesture was also an idiotic gesture, as an 18-wheeler plows through their car. Cut to the next scene, which is of his family waking up on the morning of his funeral. The next couple minutes instantly drew me in because it was so poignant. The sleeplessness, the shock, the quiet frustration. I've been in this psychic space before. It felt familiar to me, and I wanted to see where this movie would go. The movie follows each family member as they deal with Bennett's death in their own way. The mom sits at the bedside of the man whose truck collided with Bennett's car. He was the last person to see him alive in his final moments. The brother, Ryan, joins a support group for grieving teens. Even before Bennett's death, Ryan had been struggling with drugs, to the point he had been regularly giving his parents urine samples for drug tests. Ryan has the common younger brother complex of living in the shadow of someone who is seemingly perfect in everyone's eyes.
Do you guys get along?
Yeah. I mean, we did when we were little. Like, my mom says I used to follow him around all the time.
He's really cute.
My mom thinks he was like the greatest thing that ever lived.
Now add to that the stress that Bennett died before Ryan ever got to tell him how he really felt about him. Which brings us to Carey Mulligan as Rose, the girl who Bennett was on a date with when he died. No one in his family even knows who she is, and as it turns out, she's carrying his child. Rose's mother is out of the picture, either in rehab or off in Yemen teaching dignitaries how to fly fish for all it matters. The point is, she has no family and now has to move in with the Brewers. Hooray for gimmicks! We get to know Bennett through Rose's flashbacks. Bennett is played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, whose career I've been following ever since he starred in Kick-Ass. He's a very charismatic actor, and I keep hoping that he'll finally get a role that will really hit for him. I've also been following his career because he has a striking resemblance to someone who I used to date. I know. How'd you manage to fuck that one up, Kyle? Susan Sarandon was in a movie with almost the exact same plot about 7 years before this movie was made, and she played almost the exact same role. It was called Moonlight Mile, and also starred Dustin Hoffman and Jake Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal played the fiancé of Hoffman and Sarandon's tragically killed daughter. After her death, Gyllenhaal moves in with the middle-aged couple who were meant to be his in-laws. Sound familiar? Either Sarandon has a penchant for being in movies about grief, or her memory ain't too good no more. Damn it, Janet! Susan Sarandon's Grace is the one taking Bennett's death the hardest. She becomes obsessed with wanting to know what his final moments were like, how much pain he was in, and especially whether he was calling out for her.
What I want to know, what I need to know, is what were the 17 minutes like for my son?
I don't know what to tell you, Mrs. Brewer. I wasn't there. You've spoken with every doctor, every nurse, every paramedic, every fireman that was on call that night. I don't know what other information I can give you.
Now, the best advice I can give you for dealing with the sudden death of a family member is to expect some of you to go nutty for the undetermined future. So actually, dealing with how the other people in your family are grieving is a whole other part of the grief process. Alan decides the family needs to get away, and much of the movie takes place at the family's beach house.
What about the beach house?
Grace loves the beach house.
Ryan, we're gonna go to the beach house.
Reach you down there. Then you're going.
Just don't put the... Oh, damn it! Oh, damn it! Oh, God.
Don't. There's nothing to hold on to. Don't you understand? I want to tear.
I've been in love with you.
Ryan, we're gonna go to the beach house.
Reach you down there. Then you're going. I've been in love with you.
What about the beach house?
Grace loves the beach house.
I've been in love with you.
Ryan, we're gonna go to the beach house.
Alan bonds with Rose as Grace chooses to avoid dealing with her. This manifests in the two of them doing fun things together, like going to the movies and to a high school party. I have to say, Pierce Brosnan at a kegger is somewhere in the database of my wet dreams. The Greatest is a pretty solid movie. Not a great movie, but if you've got some grieving to do, then it might be a pretty good one to check out. It never gets too dark, and more importantly, it never gets weird dark.
No, that's how we deal with death. Can't change what is, so we keep it light until it's time to get dark. And then we get pitch black.
The only thing I would have changed about this movie is the younger brother storyline. It just isn't as interesting as it wants to be. Maybe if they recast it with a more capable actor, the follically challenged Johnny Simmons from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and A Perks of Being a Wallflower plays Ryan. I found him to be so bad in this, he actually distracted me away from my outright hatred for Carey Mulligan. I like this movie because it's steeped in realism. You know, if a major studio were to put out a movie about grieving, it would be total Oscar bait. And it would have a budget 10 times the size of this movie. And it would somehow come off as glamorizing the subject matter. Whereas, the entire point should be to get at the unglamorousness of grief and how human it is. How I envision a major studio putting out a movie from the same script. They would assign 2 or 3 more writers to it and brainstorm a quote-unquote high concept. High concept, meaning a story that would only sound good to someone if they were high. The trailer would be a montage of a funeral scene with a voiceover saying, "The hardest thing for a family to survive is the loss of a loved one. But what happens when that family lives in this house?" Then it cuts to the White House. Pierce Brosnan plays the President of the United States, whose son has been killed. He's having an affair with the Secretary of State, played by Halle Berry. Susan Sarandon is the First Lady, who dives into her humanitarian work. The other first son is all weird and goth, has a lot of effeminate qualities, although they clear up the ambiguity of his sexuality by giving him a female love interest, perhaps one of the White House staff members. The Chief of Staff and President's best friend, played by Lawrence Fishburne, is in the Oval Office yelling at the President, "How are you supposed to take care of your country if you can't take care of your family?" The first family takes a vacation somewhere and learns how to be a family again. The President says something like, "I let my job get in the way. I should have been a father first, leader of the free world second." The movie ends with him addressing Congress and pushing forward a bill that will require the auto industry to put brighter taillights on cars so that kids stopped in the middle of the country roads won't get run over by semi-trucks anymore. He exits to a standing ovation. His youngest son tosses him a baseball. He yells, "Now if you'll excuse me, I've got some important business to attend to." The president and the first son play catch on the lawn of the Capitol building as the camera pulls back and a new song by Darius Rucker plays and the credits roll.
Ryan, we're gonna go to the beach house.